Roofer to Roofer. The question is, how do you stay up to date with building codes and regulations as a roofer? Back to you, Scott.
Yeah, I think I mean you got to learn them the first go around, and then after that I think it's pretty simple. But for us the big change is the territory that you're in. So every state's got different code. I know some guys up in the Northeast, they're required to run 2 runs of ice and water shield on all eaves. Here it's 3 foot past the wall. So if you've got 1 foot of overhang, then you need 4 foot of ice and water. Um, things like that. So down south, obviously, ice and water shield is not really a concern, except I think they typically put it in the valleys, but none on the eaves. So I think just learning it the first time around and then getting familiar with local building code to the area that you're in is kind of the big thing. Um, we have a great relationship with one of the local inspectors, and anytime something's changing or they're modifying anything, he's pretty quick to let us know. So I don't really have to really look for a source to find that question or answer that question. He basically just keeps us informed if there's something changing.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I think it just depends. I mean, like some areas are gonna be they're just gonna have a lot more too, right? Like it's also gonna be kind of depend on that, like just what.
Yeah, I mean the thing, like for instance, we built a ton of houses when we first started, and when I say a ton, I bet we built, I don't know, 30 plus houses probably. Um, for the short amount of time we were doing it, it was quite a bit. But regardless, I never pulled a permit, like not one single permit the entire time we built houses, because where we were building was outside of any jurisdiction for needing permits. But then, if I roof inside of the town of Dunbar, West Virginia, and Jennifer will laugh at this because she's been dealing with it, they require like a specific set of rules per job, and like everything's very, very complicated, and it's literally just a simple re-roof. So yeah, it just really depends on where you're at.
Yeah, makes sense. Got a few more people have joined us. This is Roofer to Roofer. So we're here to answer your questions about the roofing business and about the roofing business industry and how to be successful in roofing. So feel free to put those questions down in the Q&A section of Zoom. There's a little button at the bottom. Otherwise, we're just going to go through our questions we already have. Jennifer says every city is different with their permit requirements. Yeah, makes sense. All right. Next question here. What is the best way to communicate unexpected delays to a customer?
Well, we're dealing with that today because job just took longer than we expected. We were planning on being at one. Actually, we were planning on being one today that we ended up not going to because of some delays from yesterday. Um, that's why we don't hard schedule. It's not hard to communicate that when you don't hard schedule anything. We basically tell our customers like, hey, we communicate consistently with them. I think that's the key. It's not about, oh no, we're not going to make it tomorrow, and that's the first communication you've had. You've been talking to them, on a fairly regular basis leading up to the install. Hey, we're going to deliver your materials this week with the intent to start the install sometime next week. I'll be in touch. End of that week comes around. Hey, it looks like we're probably going to get to you somewhere maybe around Tuesday. I'll let you know Monday evening if that's the case. If not, hopefully Wednesday. So like, you're just constantly communicating with them. And here's the thing, you're already set up in that instance where if it needs to be Thursday because it rained, that customer already knows, well, he said Tuesday or Wednesday and it rained on Monday. So there's a likelihood it could push to Thursday. You know what I mean? Like if you don't hard schedule anything, we have a queue, and whoever's next in the queue is next to get done. That's how it works. First come, first serve. We just keep moving you up the queue, and we just stay in contact throughout the process. Hey, you're looking like sometime next week. or when we sell the job, when they sign the contract, they're obviously asking right then, when can you do it? We're about 2 to 3 weeks out right now. So here in another week or two, I'll get your material delivered, and then we'll do it probably the following week. And just you're just communicating the whole time. It's not about canceling the night before, even though we just had to cancel the night before. But it's not a hard thing to do because we've already talked to that customer multiple times between the sale and the install, explaining that you know an estimated time frame and let them know it. Just understand, there's delays. We run into tons of bad decking. There's just reasons that this job could get pushed a day, two, three, easily. That's just part of it. But we'll let you know the evening before when we're going to be there.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a tricky thing. Um, so new question, can you walk through the steps to the key steps to taking a roofing business from 0 to 1 million?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot that's got to happen to get to $1 million, and I think even 2 million today is not. There's not a ton that's got to happen to get there. I think to get to 1 million, you know, work your local network, work your local social channels, uh, your relationships in the communities. You're working that hard. You're posting on Facebook every time you do a job. Post on Facebook, and this is as if it doesn't even matter if you're subbing or if you're doing it yourself. You're posting everything. You're taking a video while you're on the roof and on shingles, posting it to your Facebook, just 30-second video, and maybe throwing $10 at it, boosting it to that neighborhood, putting your sign in the yard. The very, very basic stuff. Your local network will kickstart you. And then from there, you got to take advantage of that. So that first job is the hardest one to get. You get it. You got the sign in the yard, the truck in the driveway, the Facebook post out, maybe canvassing some around that job site, that evening or whatever after the guys take off for the day. Um, you're taking advantage of that first one. Um, in my opinion, to get to $1 million, even if you're self-performing the labor like I used to with a couple helpers, I mean, we could do $1 million and I could still do all the work, sell all the jobs. I had some labor help, but and then I had a CPA that would do my accounting for me. But when I say accounting, it was pretty much me handing her a stack of receipts each month with a PO on them. It's not like she was running payroll. We ran all of our own payroll, everything. So it wasn't that difficult. It was really about like 2.5 million that we realized and this is also, that's been 8 years ago. So a lot's changed in 8 years. I mean, job cost or job price alone's doubled. So, you know, but at 2.5 million 8 years ago, that's when we kind of hit a wall and we're like, okay, I need some help. I need a little bit of help in the office. I can't answer the phone consistently. I'm not returning voicemails regularly. I'm not making sales appointments like I should be. I'm running late. I'm not giving the potential customer the time that they need because I'm working on installs. That's when we had to pull the trigger on one of two things. I had to bring someone into the office to help with the phone. And then I either had to get out of production and put someone in the production to replace me, or I had to get a sales guy. I think I was better at sales, but I loved production. And so I didn't want to get out of production. So I hired a sales guy to run those appointments, take those leads, do that whole deal. So um yeah, I think to get from 0 to 1 million, just working your social channels and your local networks and running your own jobs. If you're subcontracting, I mean, you ought to be able to get to 1 to 3 million on your own. I really believe that. I really don't think you need outside help to get from 1 to 3 million and still be very, very efficient and very run a very good program.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about this before. It's like once you hit about 2.5, 3 million, that's when you start thinking about things like delegating and scaling a team because there's money there for it. And you're going to be kind of at your limit. But before that, it's like You can't really listen to the business gurus. You gotta just work
Yeah,
yourself.
and you got to have technology replace those people. You know that it's all hindsight, right? Hindsight's 2020. But for me, hindsight is if I would have had a tool like ProLine and a tool like Company Cam, and instead of staying in production, would have went into sales. I think I could have answered the phone, ran the sales calls, and ran the business effectively till well over 3 million. Honestly, like it can be done. Um, I've got one sales guy that sells nearly $5 million. Well, the only thing he's not doing is, the reception work and the business running. So, and mind you, when you're the business owner, you're used to working from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. You know what I mean? So it's like it wasn't that big of a deal for him. He's only working 8, 9 hours a day, and he's able to do that. So, yeah, I think you can definitely do it,
Oh,
and that's where all the money's at. Think about that. If you got $3 million and you got no overhead or almost no overhead, if you're running a 30 to 35% gross profit, you're netting at least 25% gross. I mean, there's a shitload of money to be made there. You're not going to run 25% net on a 35% gross once you build out a business that you've worked yourself kind of out of that daily routine.
yeah. Yep, makes sense. If you guys got any questions for us, please put that into the Q&A section. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep going through our own. This next question is, can I charge for roof inspections or should I only offer them for free?
No, you can definitely charge for them. Typically, they're like realtors and stuff like that. We can charge. Um, they expect it. They expect to be charged for because it's essentially like a termite inspection or a foundation inspection. They're used to paying, $250 to $500 for an inspection. So in that scenario, you can absolutely charge because in that scenario, chances are it's not a lead. Like it's not really. It's very unlikely it's a potential customer. It's more so to go out and give a true report on the longevity and the lifespan left in the roof.
Yeah.
Most of the inspections we're doing for customers are receiving a quote. They know that there's a problem with their roof. They might not know what it is, or they know that it's old and is due. They're asking us to do an inspection so we can isolate the problem and give them a cost to fix that problem. So in those circumstances, we always, unfortunately, the guy that created the free quote sucks, but if you're not offering a free inspection, a free quote to, your retail customers, you're probably missing out.
That just depends on who it is.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys got any questions for us, please put that into the Q&A. Next question here. Can you use cold calling for roofing sales?
I think that there's a lot of people that's found some success in it. I have not. We've tried it with little to no. Actually, it was a negative effect in my opinion for us. Um, People were literally like because they would cold call someone that I had a relationship with, someone in the community that I knew or whatever, and that person would call me and be like, "Hey, somebody's spamming me from your company. Like, did you hire a title marketing agency or is somebody like scamming you or what's going on?" So it didn't have a positive effect for us. So we quit. We did it for a few months, and just really had a negative effect and turned into no sales. But not even just no sales, but was kind of a negative effect for us. So I do know that there's people that's had success with it, or claim to. We just we tried it hard and struck out. And even like the lead agencies that basically do a cold call, cold email, whatever it is, cold text system, and then they just provide you leads that are verified, air quotes verified. We've had almost no success with that as well. We gave it a really good try.
Yeah, I my viewpoint on it is there's a lot of legal hoops to jump through. If you're not, yeah, like legally, you're only supposed to be doing B2B cold calling. So you can call businesses, but individuals, there's a lot of issues with that. You can get away with it. But it has to be like they have to have an opt-in record. So, but then everyone's opted into like everything at some point. So there's a lot of like kind of workarounds with it. But I think the biggest thing is, especially on the residential side, is what you're saying, especially in a smaller community. Maybe you can get away with it in a bigger city. But in a smaller community, it's like you're just going to end up stepping on a lot of toes. And it's like those people already knew who you are. You're better off in a smaller community, probably just doing other forms of marketing that are lesser.
Yeah, relationship building type marketing is much better than cold calling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the cold calling also is like, I feel like door knocking is better than cold calling when it comes to your roof, because at least when you door knock, you can point up to the roof and be like, hey, I see this on your roof. Do you know, kind of go inspect it or something like that? Or, hey, we're doing your neighbor's roof. But when you're cold calling, you have none of that context. It's just a random call out of the blue.
Well, and everybody just assumes it's a telemarketer. Like when I walk up in a rain stopper shirt driving a rain stopper's truck, you know who I am. And if you give me the opportunity, we're going to make some sort of relationship. That phone call makes zero relationship.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it makes sense. All right. If you guys have any questions, please put that in the Q&A. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom. Let me open another question here. What is the best way to determine whether or not decking needs to be replaced?
An attic inspection. I mean, that's that's something we've started doing religiously is an actual attic inspection. There's houses, actually my house doesn't have an attic access. There's plenty of houses that don't have the option. And then you're just going off judgment from doing your roof inspection, you know, is it soft, does it seem, and then you're just making an educated guess and letting, you know, we don't even really guess. We let the homeowner know, hey, there's 2 sheets included. It feels pretty soft. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to have, you know, 10, 15 sheets of wood replacement on this. So just be prepared for that additional expense. But if you can do an attic inspection, it's not perfect because there are times that um you know, we've had it before where the plywood was just, you know, completely burnt, like just baked into the roof to where it's crunchy when you walk on it. But the underside might not look bad at all. But it is deteriorated to a point that it needs replaced. So there's always going to be an unforeseen, but that attic inspection really, really kind of takes a lot of the guesswork out if you can get in there.
Yep. Makes sense. Next question here is, what underlayment should I be using and how do I determine that? Do I should use different underlayments on each type of roof, or you just use the same underlayment for everything?
Depends on what the customer wants to pay for. That's how we look at it. We have two really good products that we sell for underlayment. One of them gets, you know, our gold pledge warranty through GAF. The other gets our standard rain stoppers 5-year warranty. And in my opinion, it's just as good. We buy in bulk off Van Boxel. And they have been great to deal with. It's all custom branded felt with our name on it. It's beautiful. It's very, very inexpensive in comparison to a lot of the name brand felts. And then, like I say, I mean, I've put a lot of roofs on myself, and I've messed with this material. It is just as good a quality as anything else you're going to buy. So, I think what we buy off Van Boxel, we're paying a quarter that what we pay for GAF felt. That, in my opinion, is no different, other than the warranty that you can get with it. So it's whatever the customer is willing to pay for. But yeah, any of the synthetics out there today are pretty daggone good. you got to remember, I hear people debate on this sometimes about synthetic felts. 10 years ago, synthetic felt wasn't even really a thing. Like before 10 years ago, it was tar paper. The cheapest synthetic available is still better than tar paper. So, that's always my argument is like, well, they put roofs on for 50 years using tar paper with a lot of success. Why this is obviously an upgrade to that. So, you know, um again, the products we use I think are still better than or significantly better than entry level, but even the entry level synthetic, if that's what you're offering, I mean, I don't see a problem with that. I think it's still a good product.
Yeah. What is the right way to estimate job costs accurately so that you don't go over budget on the actual project?
Use a quoting tool like ProLine. I mean, I run a mastermind group that ends a half hour before this, and we actually just had a conversation with one of the guys on there, and he's trying to dial his numbers in a little bit, and I explained to him kind of what we did to dial our stuff in, and the beauty of using the quoting tool in ProLine is once we had that all plugged in, we ran a bunch of tests. We really, really understood, okay, we drip edge covers 10 feet in theory. Well, if we put it in at 10 feet, we were short, versus what we actually used. So we dialed that thing in to where we realized, okay, to get this right every time, we need to put drip edge only covers 9 linear feet, not 10. So now our drip edge is dialed in. It's really good. We're never short, and we almost always have one stick of drip edge left over. So it's pretty much dead on. You got to take the time to really dial that in. You got to make sure your pricing's accurate with your supplier. Um, and then if you're subbing your labor, I mean, it doesn't get much easier to figure labor cost when you're getting it through a subcontractor. But if you're using in-house labor, you've really, really got to, it's a real trial and error thing. You got to just test. So, this job you charged $100 a square labor and you didn't make any money. Okay. Well, what did that job actually cost you and why? Was it real cut up? Was it too steep? Was it multiple pitches? Was it, what was it? What was the cause of that job taking too long to make profit $100? Okay, it was steep and it had 12 facets. Okay, so for that job, we need to start charging $130 a square, whatever. So you really, really got to take the time to dial in the labor if you're not subcontracting. But yeah, once you've got it plugged in, that's what I was telling Chris today in our group. Once you've got it plugged in and you're confident with it, moving forward, now it's just checking in because now you got it set, you got your parameters set for your gross profit margin. If your material and your labor is dialed in, your gross profit should be within 1% or two every job.
Yeah. All right, you guys, if you got any questions for us, we're here to answer your all's questions about the roofing industry, roofing business. So please put that in the Q&A at the bottom of Zoom. Otherwise, we'll just keep going through our questions. Next question here is, how do I know when I should turn down a job?
Oh man, I don't like turning down jobs. Um, we've had a couple. When you get with the customer, we had one 2-3 weeks ago. Kelton got out of the truck and the guy literally met him in the yard and said, "Can you do the job for $2,500?" And it's just a single wide trailer, but still, we can't do a roof replacement for $2,500 on a freaking doghouse hardly today. And Kelton said, "I don't think so, but I can write you a quote." He said, "Well, if you can't get $2,500 or less, we ain't doing it." Kelton just got back in the truck and left. There's those situations, but even the shitty customers, sometimes I just look at that as a challenge. You know what I mean? Like if I can tell that you're just a pain in the ass anyway, that's fine. I accept the challenge. I'm gonna try all I can to impress you and walk out of here with a 5-star review. And we've done it. We some of the ones that we've thought were going to be an absolute nightmare. We knocked the socks off of it and got a 5-star review. The only time we walk away, and this was one of my hardest lessons in business to learn, was when to say no because it's outside of your scope. Not the person necessarily, but when it's a job that you shouldn't be doing, not saying you're not good at it, not saying, for instance, if you're a roofing company and you get a lead and you go out and look at a job, and the homeowner's not really looking for a roof replacement, they're actually looking for new exterior doors. Yeah, maybe you know how to do exterior doors and you're good at it. Are you going to make the money that you want to make piddling around with a couple exterior doors, or do you need to go to the next lead that could pay you what your company needs to make installing a roof? So, and chances are you're probably not good at it. If you only offer roofing, there's a reason. It's probably because you're really good at roofing. And if you're really good at that, you can't be really good at a lot of things. You're usually only really good at one, maybe two things. So, yeah, learning to say no when it's outside of your comfort zone a little
Good.
bit.
Makes sense. All right. Next question here. What's the most cost-effective way to dispose of old roofing materials?
We only have one option. It's the landfill. We don't have a recycler. We don't have nothing like that where I live. So my father-in-law used to tell me, you could take an excavator and dig. I had a bunch of property. You could take an excavator, dig a big hole back there and fill that thing up and then just cover it up with dirt. I'm like, I don't think that's a great idea, Terry. I mean, it sounds good, but I'm pretty sure I'll get in trouble if I get caught. So, yeah, you got to take them to the landfill or recycling center. I've heard those recycling centers still charge like a decent amount to take your trash. I don't know because I've literally never been to one. Um, but yeah, landfill is the only option we got.
Okay. This next question somewhat could potentially be somewhat related. Question is, what are some things many roofing companies do that are actually unethical?
I mean, they take deposits and don't show up. That's obviously super unethical, and not only unethical, but it's literally illegal. But I see it
But
a lot.
yeah, you see it a lot. Like, what normally is that? It can't be intentional, right? It's
When I
just
say a lot, I mean multiple times a year. Um, I used to think it was just poor management of the business, right? Like a guy just he's just not built to run a company. He doesn't understand how to manage his finances, and he just gets in over his head. And I think that is kind of the initial problem, but the good guys find a way to crawl out of that. They figure it out. They work their ass off. They make sure they get that customer taken care of, even if they got to drag them along for a little bit to get in order and get them handled. But man, I see it more and more where it happens the same guy multiple times, and it's like, okay, you didn't just make a mistake. You made a mistake, and then you accepted the fact that the only way to pay this guy was rob this guy. So you're literally robbing Peter to pay Paul, and that's unethical. So I don't think that's a. I got in trouble before. I almost filed bankruptcy. Must have been 7 years ago now. I mean, we almost went out of business, and you know what I didn't do? I didn't go take money from somebody to try to go finish a job that already paid. I did not do that because I didn't even take deposits. So I've never taken deposits. So that was never an issue. But I couldn't pay my supplier. I couldn't pay my supplier, and I had a sub that was working with me doing flooring because we were building houses at that time, and I couldn't pay him. And I called him and I said, hey, I just need a little bit of time. I will get you taken care of. Well, fortunately, because I'd always done the right thing previously by paying my bills quickly, always being up to date, they were more than okay with it. Like, Scotty, it's okay. You got if I get hard up, I'll let you know, but just get it to me when you've got it. Um, but we never put the customer in a compromising position over over that. But I see it more and more by the same guy. The way I fixed it, I worked 7 days a week for probably 3 months, literally 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I mean, hammer in my hand, worked my ass off for 3, maybe 4 months without a day off. And I got myself out of the hole. And that's the only way. There's only one way to get out of the hole, and that's start shoveling and shovel hard, So, um, yeah, that's where I stand on it. I don't know what other unethical things people do. I think bait and switch shit that you see on Facebook and stuff like that. I don't know that's unethical, but I don't really care for it. People offering roofs for $6,500 when right now we just quoted a single wide trailer for $8,000. What roof are you doing for $6,500 today? You know what I mean? So some stuff like that I don't really care for, but I don't know that's unethical. It's just a different tactic that some people use.
Yeah.
You got
What,
anything you've ran across that would be unethical?
I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is like paying deductibles.
Oh yeah, I don't really deal with insurance. So yeah, that is something, yeah, which is illegal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of people do that. I actually hear people do it, and we don't really deal with insurance companies, but people do. We'll just add the deductible into the job cost and we'll knock it off your invoice. That's usually how people handle it.
Yeah. 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 Um, okay. I got a question here from Harry. He asks, do you have a standard process for slow paying or non-paying customers?
Um, we just don't really deal with it. I hate to say that because it sounds like bullshit because you would think that would be a problem, but I think we can credit our lack of AR. We have crazy AR because we do some government work and it gets wild because they take like 90 to 120 days to pay.
Yeah.
For residential retail, our AR is usually next to nothing. I think it's the process leading up to the invoice that eliminates our AR. It's not our process once we've sent the invoice. So our process leading up to take no deposits, we're trying to earn that trust, right? So, but we told them at the appointment, trying to close the deal right then and there. Hey, by the way, we don't take a deposit, so you don't need to go to the bank and get money to sign a contract. We're good to go if you're good to go. The only thing we ask is the day we finish or the following day, you have a check ready for the full payment. That's it. We do a final inspection. When we come for the final inspection, we like for you to pay in full. Then when they sign the contract, ProLine sends them an automated message that's a really well, I mean, I made it and it works beautifully. It's taken so much headache off of our plate, not just payment, but it explains that it's going to be a messy job site. We're tearing the roof off. It's going to be a mess for just a little bit. Work with us. We want to get your roof put back on in case of, rain comes up or anything like that. The trash is 100% priority, but it comes after the roof. Um, it talks about things like moving your barbecue and your lawn ornaments out there. But then the last thing is, hey, remember, we don't take a deposit. Just please be ready for a full payment once the roof is complete. And then we follow up one last time when we move them to our job complete stage. Hey, your job's wrapped up. Somebody will be in touch in the next 24 hours to do a final walkthrough. Please have payment ready. They always have payment ready. Like, everybody gives me shit about this whole deposit thing. It works for me. So why would I change it? Like, I would have more AR if I took a deposit. I guarantee it. I 100% am sure because now they feel as a customer
They
a
were,
little less like they owe you.
yeah.
I don't take a deposit. So guess what? I've told them 3 freaking times that, hey, remember, when I'm done, you owe me the full amount. Don't forget that. Full amount the day I'm done. I'm not like throwing it in their face, but we make sure we touch on it a few times. They know. They have that shit ready. As soon as most of them even pay us, even if there's an issue that they want us to come back and fix at a later date, because they know the job is technically complete. They just have a small little thing that they want touched up, or, you know, we put a rut in their yard and they want some topsoil and some seed and straw thrown on it. That happens from time to time. They still freaking pay us. Like, they don't make us, we usually offer to let them keep the check until we finish that, just out to be, offer that service and that peace of mind for the customer. Most of them are like, no, no, no. Take the payment. The roof's done. It's okay. Just try to get here this week if you can and get that buttoned up. Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, it's not, I know I didn't answer your question. It's just my best response
Yeah.
because I don't deal with that problem because of the process prior to what you're dealing with.
I think it's all about the process leading up. I think that is how you eliminate AR. If once you have the customer doesn't want to pay, it's like it's almost too late. It's like, yeah, I mean, you can send them to collections. You can have some automated follow-up if you want. Like at ProLine, you can set up automated follow-up on invoices. But I mean, ultimately, yeah, I think it's all about priming them to be ready to make that payment. And I think, like, I love the way that you do it without deposits. I I do wonder if that works in larger markets where people feel a little bit more anonymous, versus a smaller community where people feel more connected and like their reputation matters more. So I do wonder that. But even if you were charging deposits, so one of the things we do with ProLine is we have the running balance invoicing system. The running balance invoice system sends, when you send the deposit invoice, it's actually a full invoice for the entirety of the roof, but then it just has an amount that's currently due. But you're communicating very clearly to the customer that you owe us X amount of money, but we're just allowing you to only pay this amount right now. But we're versus the normal invoicing system that you have pretty much with every other invoicing platform, where if it's a $3,000 deposit and it's a $12,000 roof, then you're going to send an invoice for 3,000. The customer's going to pay it, and now they're like, "Oh, I paid the guy. We paid them, right?" They just write it off. But if with our running balance system, you clearly communicate that they're putting a certain amount of money towards the whole value of the job, and then you follow it up later with the balance that then has again the full amount plus any change orders minus any previous payment, so minus the deposit. And so that running balance system also does a lot to solve that issue. ProLine users typically have less AR because of that, just in general. But it's still not like that's not going to solve everything. I think having that communication leading up, priming them, hey, like as soon as the job is done, let's make sure to have payment ready. Um, Again, you're also fishing out any reasons why they might not want to pay, right? Because if they are in the back of their head, like, oh, I'm not going to pay this company till XYZ happens, when you say that before the job happens, like, 3 days before the job occurs, hey, make sure to have payment ready at end of day for us as soon as we complete. They're likely to be like, well, actually, I want to make sure of XYZ before I pay you guys, right? You're going to fish that out of them. So then you can address that earlier, and then you can still get that check on time. Versus if you don't fish it out and you don't address it, then they're going to hold on to that. They're not going to want to pay you. And now it's a whole thing because you weren't able to get a check when you were there, or they weren't just paying when you were there. So now you got to do it later and you got to track them down and they get busy. You get busy, right? So I think that starts to snowball. So that's my outlook. I'd add to that. I love your approach too with the no deposit, but I think even with the deposit, you can still, over communicate properly, use running balance invoices, and you can still eliminate a lot of the AR issue.
I was going to say the same thing. And just to elaborate, the amount of times that customers literally hand our sub a check, it's wild. These guys, like, they act like to the customer they don't even speak English. So I don't even know if they communicate at all other than here's my money, thanks for the roof. You know what I mean? Like because they don't want to have to talk to people, so they'll like literally act like they don't speak English. But uh, I believe if why does a person need 50% down? The job material does the whole idea with deposits. I'll be honest with you. I talked to my attorney about it once upon a time ago. I believe, and someone will tell me I'm wrong, and I very well could be. If I remember correctly, in the state of Ohio, you cannot legally take 50% of a deposit. Like that is technically not legal.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, I'll hold to it, but I'm pretty sure that he told me that.
A lot of places are 33%.
I thought he told me 25% was the
Yeah.
I'm going off a 2-year memory that I don't even give a shit about because I never took deposits. But
Yeah.
regardless, why do you need 50%? I don't get that. Like you should not need 50% of the job cost to do the freaking job. The only thing, here's the thing, if you're very new, right? You're the guys that are going to bitch at me because if you're very new, you don't have a lot of cash flow, you probably don't have credit at your supplier, your subs probably wanting paid fairly quickly, things like that, right?
Yeah.
To me, I still would. The first time I worked with a sub crew, when we went from in-house to subcontracting, the very first thing I did was I said, "Look, when I pay you at the end of the week for this week's jobs." So I wasn't paying them at the end of the day. I was paying them at the end of the week. Now they turn their invoices in by Sunday, they get paid by Wednesday. That's just when our bills run is on Wednesdays, and we have credit at our account, so or at our supplier. But let's say you have to buy the material with COD. We used to be in that position, we didn't have credit. If 25% of that job does not cover the material, you probably didn't bid that job for enough. That's just the way it is. Um, So I just don't see why you need 50%. 50%'s anything above that, a big part of that's profit. So do you really got to cover almost the entire cost of the job prior to ever stepping foot there? And you're probably not stepping foot there for 2 to 4 weeks. Like, I don't get it. I don't think it's, I just don't think it's a good model. If you want to offer a 25% deposit and then run that model like I'm talking about with the automated messaging, reminding them to have payment due at completion, fantastic. But I even see guys doing a damn payment schedule for roofing. Like, what are you doing? You know how much time you're wasting? You gotta collect the deposit, so that takes time. Then when materials get delivered, you go collect, you take 25% here, and then you go collect again when materials are delivered for another 25%, or it's 33, 33, 33. You know how much work you're making for yourself for nothing. Like you're not gaining anything. Your bank account looks a little healthier than what mine does in comparison because I have all my AR, the bills are paid for. Like I pay my bills every week, and really it's not because I just don't hardly have any AR. But you understand what I'm saying? Like that, there's no real upside to doing that if you can float 1 to 2 weeks worth of cash flow. But my old financial advisor told me a long time ago, you need to have enough cash in the bank to operate for 4 months without any income. That's where you need to be. And if you can't get there, you got to figure out a way to get there. So we got there quickly because we worked really hard, but we never took deposit before that. We just didn't. You scrounge the money up, you live within your means, you don't go buy the big fancy truck, you don't, you rent a dump trailer until you can actually afford to go buy one or get, a loan for one or what, like you just do those things that keep your overhead as low as possible and your cash flow as good as you can without taking it from a customer.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. All right. Thanks, Scott. We will wrap it up there, and we'll see everybody next week.
See you guys.